Hello everybody, welcome back to sprueVerse, my scale model universe. People on Earth, welcome to 2026 and a brand new build. On the bench today is Ron Cobb's concept design for the motion picture The Abyss. This is his flatbed. And I just want to say a big thank you to my good friend Jeff Fink, who is responsible for the design of these STL files, and hopefully this will turn into some kind of a kit, we hope, that you'll be able to print or build sometime this year. We're not sure, but stay tuned, and I'm sure there'll be some announcements about that. Who is Ron Cobb? Well, he's a concept designer who sadly we lost in 2020. He was born in 1937, contracted dementia at 83, and we lost him. And that's a huge shame because he was an incredible talent and somebody that I really admired, because I think in a previous life I wanted to be a production designer. I probably even should have gone to art school, but alas, I didn't. I just ended up being a good old-fashioned TV producer after spending 38 years in television and working on some films. But I'm thrilled to be at the bench working on this flatbed because I loved James Cameron's The Abyss, but I really love Ron Cobb. And I thought, what a great opportunity to celebrate Ron and actually bring one of his designs to life. And so that's what we're doing with this build-up. And he's one of those really interesting talents that we don't really know a lot about. Now, there is a book out that's available on Amazon that celebrates his artwork. And if you Google Ron Cobb, a page will come up with most of his design work. It's really fun to check him out, and you'll see that he's contributed to quite a few movies. He's actually credited on Back to the Future for some design work on the DeLorean. A lot of people don't really know that. He started his career working for Walt Disney on Sleeping Beauty, and after that, which, by the way, was the last movie where we hand-inked animation cells. Pretty cool. So he's self-taught too, no formal education, but it's his credits that are amazing. He also did album covers. He worked for Jefferson Airplane, which became Jefferson Starship, and in 1967 he actually designed the cover for their album After Bathing Baxter. So he's incredibly talented, but often concept designers don't necessarily get their fair due, and oftentimes their designs are evolve into other things. They don't necessarily make it to film, as is the case with the flatbed. But some of his work has gone to film. When he worked for ILM and he worked on Star Wars, some of the cantina elements, such as this one, was credited to him. So that's pretty cool. And of course, I wanted to remember some of his other credits. So I have made a note of some of those. He worked on Alien, Conan the Barbarian. He designed 2 swords for that. Last Starfighter, Leviathan, and of course The Abyss. And I'm sure there's many other credits that I am forgetting. But it is this flatbed that we're going to bring to life. Take a look to remind yourselves of what we're building here. This is Ron's concept art, and we do know that there were quite a significant amount of changes that happened to what ended up on film. But we're going to build this as lovingly and as close as we can, and thanks to Jeff Fink and his design work, we're able to do it. Okay, so let's dive in here because there's a lot to get to. If you went back in time to last year, not so long ago, when I was traveling, I did a little sneak peek and we showed you some of these elements. But to bring you up to speed, we are going to be lighting this. And the way this is designed, we think there were lights in these wings, and we've done that. I've put square yellows in here because I think that'll be fun for this. So there are, I've threaded them through here. And because this is a concept build, obviously there's a lot of tweaking that we'll be doing. But the wings have lights in the rear, the sides, and the front. There is underneath the actual sort of cockpit where you would sit and control this. So there's going to be blue light inside of there. Underneath, there's 4 floodlights that shoot down to the seabed as you're driving along. So we'll get those 4 installed, and they'll be cabled, and they're going to come in. We're going to bring them into our actual cockpit here, and we'll wire those in the back. I've got a false back for this. There was some thought about using the rear of this to put a 9-volt battery, but on this scale a 9-volt doesn't fit for me, so I'm running my wires down through here onto the base, which I have shown in my sneak peek, if you want to go check that out. If not, I'll be obviously bringing it back on the bench when we're ready to seat this. So and there is also above on the top here, there is also a couple of lights that we need to put on here, a couple of floodlights that face forward, so we'll get those. And I need to obviously drill down and thread those through. So we'll probably get that figured out first. And then we'll get all the other lights sort of figured out, and I'll show you those as we progress. And then, of course, as we've done that, once we've got all of our lighting kind of passed through, and I'm happy with that, we'll go ahead and actually permanently install the cockpit to the bed itself. And because we're going to actually paint this. This is going to be painted in a white, and we'll age it down and give it some love. But we're definitely going to be painting this in the Ron Cobb white black with the red conning tower. At least I'm going to stay faithful to this sketch. I don't know whether that's how he ultimately wanted it conceived, but that's what we're going to do. We're going to try and bring that sketch to life. Very cool. Okay, thrilled you're along with me on this build. I'm going to get all of my lamps wired and start drilling some holes, and I'll show you all of that before we proceed. So I'm making some good progress on my lighting setup. I've only got a few more things to do. But one of the things I do have to do is connect 4 floods that face down towards the seabed to the bottom of my flatbed. Now, in order to do that, I'm going to use these little clamps that have been provided for. Here's a close-up of it for you to see. And I've got 4 of those. And what I'm going to do is, with a piece of brass rod, I'm going to connect those to these floods. And then I'm going to use some electrical shrink tubing to cover these wires up and run them into the bottom of the flatbed so that they can get power. I did think about putting them into the wing and then running them through. I certainly could do that, but it's an awful lot, and I don't think visually it adds anything. I think we'll get a lot of visual detail from the cables, and it makes it look a little more important. So I'm going to deliberately run them on the outside. Now, one of the unique features of this flatbed is a couple of the elements that you can see here. There's this grate that's going to hold some tanks. They're most likely they were for ballast, and they're going to be in here. And then we've got these side tracks that go on, and they sit in these arms right here, and they connect up to this back. And I can just sort of quickly just show you what that looks like with them sort of not put in correctly, but just sort of just laying here so that we can see what they look like attached. There. Okay, perfect. So what you can see now is we've got this wonderful setup here for my lights to go through and into it. So there's sort of, you could say it's foreground, but it makes it look really important, and we've got those on both sides. Now the front ones, it doesn't have anything really to cover it. So what we'll do is I think what we'll do is we'll jump it over, and then we'll figure out how we're going to attach it to the underneath of the wing and then bring it in. I think it'll sort of loop over and then come in, and I'll figure out a way to make something that looks like a clamp. But that will take care of the 4 corner wing floods that point down. We've done the two that point straight out from above, and then the only other lights I've got to get in here are some blues, and those are just little chip lights, and I have those here. I've got 4 of those, and they're going to be attached to this. I have this now as a clear part just to give it some interest, but they will attach to the inside. They're going to attach to the inside of this, and we'll talk about that when we get there. But I just wanted to sort of memorialize where I am and show you step by step how we're building this up. Once I've got all this sorted and we know where everything goes and how we're going to hide these wires, that's when I can get a coat of primer on that, and that'll come up next. So we're getting there. I've been using some aftermarket parts. Several years ago when I built the Orca, I found on eBay a gentleman who was selling all of his shipwright detail kits. I've shown these before on the channel. Hundreds of little parts for boats. They've come in real handy, especially portholes for lamps. And really happy with this one. So this is the finished look of what we're going for, these lamps. These are going to shine down. And essentially what I've done is I've taken these wonderful little portholes, and what I've been doing is I've been adding these little brass pins, and I've been dropping them in here and just adding a little touch of glue, and that creates the rivet. Now these already have a little glass in them. So I've been doing that, and essentially dropping them into these lamp housings that I have now added some black to, just to add some interest to them and create a little bit of depth of color. So the lamps are going to be in the silvers. Everything else obviously is going to be in the whites, but this is really nice. Now sadly, you won't see an awful lot of it. I do, my base, it will sit quite high, but you'll see the effect of it. But we'll get some beauty shots of this in situ, and we'll see how that looks. But I'm very, very, very happy with that. So I've got 3 more of these to go, and then our lamps will be done. And the only other thing I'll have to do is put some shrink tubing on these to simulate a hose pipe. Now I do have something else other than that I'd like to show you. It's actually rubber. And that may be better, because sometimes, depending on what you're trying to do in terms of, sweeping curves, I find that the shrink tubing can kink, whereas this rubber hose, it's actually a roll of material that I found on Amazon for jewelry makers. It's quite cool. I have to now install the 2 headlights that appear in front of the conning tower in the front of the flatbed. As you can see on Ron's conceptual drawing in the bottom right side, you'll see those 2 lights indicated there. So those are the ones I'm having to put on. I'm putting them on now. And if you also look on the right side of this diagram, under the wingtips, you'll see those small thrusters. Well, I had an opportunity to talk to Jeff about that, and he's kindly generating some, or designing and creating some files for me. He'll send them over today, and we will print them up and see what we've got. But those are those sort of accurize our flatbed, at least accurizing it to get it as close to Ron's idea of what this should have looked like. So what I have to do now is I've got to go ahead and install these lights, and that's going to require me to feed these through the two elements here that I've drilled out. And I've got this wonderful rubber hose that I've got. I found this roll on Amazon. I did a big search for it. Unfortunately, I can't remember the name of the site, and I've had a difficult time trying to look for it. It would take me a little while to dig in and find it. But I do know I went to the jewelry area, because that's where I found a lot of really interesting, cool pipage. And this is what this is for, or at least this is where they were selling it. And I like this better than the shrink tubing that I used to use to cover my wires and make them look like cable holders, because this doesn't kink, it just twizzles. Whereas I found with my shrink tubing that can kink. So this was a really nice find, and it's those kinds of finds that really add to your kit. So when you've got a little spare time and you're thinking, hey, hoses, or hey, this or that, get yourself some stuff. You know, you might be spending $15, $20, but you'll be glad you did. It'll be in your kit. It's better to have it in your kit and pull it out when you need it than have to go searching for it, trying to find it, trying to order it, and hoping it gets here in 2 weeks, because who knows where it's coming from. Anyway, just my nickel's worth of free advice. Let me go ahead and see if I can show you what they look like, or one of them looks like, at least lit up. I can turn it to you. I've put these screens on them because I wanted to sort of create a lot of diffusion and the illusion that this is, of course, underwater. So come on, let me just get this going here. There we go. And I'm really happy with that. Very, very, very mysterious, nice and diffused, very clean, very industrial looking. So they're gonna be terrific, and I'm very excited about that. They're in. Now, interestingly enough, the hose I showed you, I could not get over the little resistor that comes on those chips. It was just too darn small. So, and I wanted to use it. So my solution to the problem is I just simply cut a slit in my hose, and then I can actually put that over when I'm ready to. I can put that over, and that will sit in there in these holes right here quite nicely. And that will be absolutely perfect. I'm not going to glue any of this down just yet, because I want to be able to just clean around it, touch-ups, and do whatever other detail work I need to do. But that is an absolute result, and I couldn't be happier with that. Now, everything has to go through this center console, this center hole here, so I will feed these through. I just had to get them into these holes. I don't want them in these locking keys here, because it doesn't centralize these wires for me, and I need them centralized so that I can bring everything into the cockpit, and then of course down into my stand. So I'm going to go ahead and feed those through. But I'm just happy to get those on. So I've got my wing lights on. I've got my my front floods, and now I've got to put my wing lights in, and I've drilled the appropriate holes for those, and that will do it for the exterior lighting, except for the cockpit lights. I've got those 4 chips that I'm going to put in, and that'll take care of the lighting, and then I can just go to town. Now, Jeff was kind enough to actually create these thruster wings for me. They're perfect, and they complete the kit. So the model, I couldn't be happier. Couldn't be happier about that. So I'm going to go ahead and continue just getting all of these things. Oh, I've got the grates done. I like this color that I've chosen, which is it's sort of a metallic kind of gray, really. And now it'll get aged down, but I think it just, when it sits in the here, you can see, I think it's a really nice contrast. Now, for my engines, they're going to be white as well. The inside of the engine will have a black orb with yellow propellers. Just trying to add a splash of color to it. But yeah, it's really starting to come together. The next thing I've got to do is just make sure I do have all of my my pipage, because I'm not sure I do. I might be missing some pipage. But we'll see. I'm going to triple check that right now. But it's very exciting to be moving this forward, and I am liking the this sort of very matte white that I'm using. I love it. This is from Army Painter. It's their rattle can matte white. It's a really industrial white, and it's nice and clean, and it'll age beautifully. And Ari's going to get a coat of semi-gloss, so I can put my decals on, and then it'll get matted down again. I found these just rings that happen to be the same size as the front of my lamps. These lamps are 100% scratch built, really. One of the nice things that I like to use, that I find at my local hardware store, are they're filters. They're filters for your faucet to make sure that impurities don't, come through the faucet filter. They're called aerator screens. You can find them in different sizes at your local shop. They're really wonderful things, and they're little circles that you could not cut like this in a million years. You really couldn't. So what I've done is I've taken my 3D printed piece. I've been weathering them and painting them up while they're loose. And then I've been adding details like these aerator screens in the fronts. And I think now we have a really nice finished look. Let me turn these to camera and see if I can't show you them. Now I've got touching up to do. But here's them's those is. And I'm really happy with this. I think that has turned out really well. So when this is all set up, I will sand these down a little more, and I'm going to add a little bit of either silver or chrome to the front of those to make them look like they're part of it. But I think that's a really nice adjustment. Now, if you want to go crazy, I do have these little strips of brass here, and you could wrap those around, and that would hide the exterior part of the screen. Don't know if that's I don't know if that's overkill. Don't know. But you know how it is when you start getting super focused on something, and you just don't know when to stop. But this is a very important detail because you're going to see the front of it. So I'm very happy with what we've done. Let me move on and show you. These are, well, let me get back to our sketch from the great Ron Cobb. If you look on the right side of this of these concepts, you will see we've got front and rear. It's the top right that I'd like you to focus on, because those are your main engines with, of course, the directional fins in the back of them. So that's the picture, and here's the real deal. Now I've just been cutting my brass rod and test fitting everything, and I'm really happy with where we are. So now what I can do is I can go ahead and break these down, paint them, and then I can put these back, and that will complete the engines. I've got the internals for that. Let me show you those. We made them as separate pieces, because the original design, this was one complete piece inside the engine. It would have made it very difficult to paint. This way, yes, it's a separate piece, but now this just slides in and you can paint it, and that's a good thing. And then, just to add a little bit of texture and color, I've gone ahead and painted these in a titanium color, just to add some color and texture to these. I don't think it'll be overkill. We're going to age everything down. Don't forget, everything's going to get weathered. The next big thing I have to do now is I've got to go ahead and get the last few lights installed on the interior of the cockpit, and that will complete the lighting setup. And then I can run everything through, and then I can get the cockpit permanently installed. But I can't do that just yet, because I want to be able to fiddle with some other things. I've got control surfaces that have to be painted, and I've got also the one night control seat that has to go in here, along with a bunch of other things. So I'm going to go ahead and start working on the details for the cockpit, and I'll show you that as I proceed. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm going to line these up, and then I'm going to figure out what the hose situation is going to be that allows these to go in to these two holes that I've drilled there and there. Now I'm going to use some kind of a cabling system, in other words, to sort of just hold these down, but that's the way I want to do it. Not just for dramatic effect, but I think it's going to really look spiffy. And I've got this wonderful rubber that I use for hosage. So I just wanted to show you how wonderful this is. I don't know how much I need here. I didn't plan this off camera. I'm sort of working as you're watching, which I think sometimes can be fun. And so I'm going to guesstimate about this much. So I will just simply snip myself off a length of this. Might be a little too long, but that's okay. I just wanted you to get the general idea of what this is going to look like, because I think this stuff is really good. And again, you know, for those of you who write me and say, can I get a link to it? I don't have one. I'm sorry. It was a long time ago when I found this. I found it on Amazon. The best I can do for you is to say, go to the jewelry section and just skim around. You can also check on eBay. But that's where I found it. I found it in the jewelry making world. And so I suspect that's where you'll be able to find it. Okay, so this went on like a charm. I had a struggle. I am struggling with the ones that I have to. I could not get them over the resistor, so I've had to just basically take for those, the smaller ones. What I did was I took my hobby knife and I just simply made a slit in the tube. And I'll use that to cover, but I will show you that later. But this goes on here, like this. I just have to pull this down a little more and get this over this piece there. There we go. just push that up, and that looks great. That looks really good. So now you can see when I go ahead and install this and run it around, you get this wonderful effect. And that is going to really spiff this up, and that'll drop down in there, and then I will find a way to sort of attach it. We'll find a clever way to attach it, but that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to go ahead and organize all of these, get these situated, and then we'll go ahead and install them. I think I'm looking here just to see what happens when this pushes through, because I may have cut myself a piece that's too long, but I don't think so. No, we're going to be just fine, and that dies in there beautifully like that, and that will complete that. And I've got to do that for all 4 wings, and once I've done that, then I will be off to the races, because I can go ahead and permanently attach this. There's no reason not to. And I really love this because, you know, in the real world, that's what you would have. You would have these sorts of things, and I just love that. And I can go ahead and figure out just exactly how much of that I need, but I love the way that looks. It looks very, very real. Very real. Okay, so that will be my 4 undercarriage wing lights completed. And I'm just going to go ahead and, because the reason why, I didn't explain why, is I've got this, I've got this clear part here. And this clear part here is for my blue chip lights that are going to light the inside of this, and they're going to go up into they're going to go up inside here, and so that's why I had to go ahead and get these installed. Yeah, that's what I'm working on now, and that will be good to go. I'm very happy with that. Okay, I'm gonna get the 4 of these sorted, get my chip lights in, and then I think we'll take a look at it with all the lights on. Why not? Why not? Front floods, the wings, and of course my lower floods, which are just absolutely perfect. And I'm really in love with the cool color combination for this. Everything is together now. So the next step for me is to clean all this up and get my lenses in. I've got these little clear lenses here. What's left to go on are these lenses for the wing lights that you can see all the way around these perimeters here. They're going to sit on like this. And so what I have to do is I just have to do something. I have to attach these, create a little clip so that I can attach these and just push them in. So that's the next thing to do. The other thing that I have to do is I just need to get some I just need to get some hose, some cable I should say, on here, on the backs of these floods once they're glued in. And once they are glued in, I'm going to have to be really, really super careful because they will snap. They are very fragile. Okay, very, very excited, very happy. And let me just unplug that, take that away, lift it up, and show you the absolute beauty of this. I mean, you can really see this is coming together, and it's coming together really well. So now it's just a function of getting all of these lights cleaned up, and once I have all of those cleaned up, I can start focus on the exterior details, which would be the grids and all of the rails. I do have some other elements that have to go in too. Obviously, the rear engines. I've got my I've basically got my my conning tower hatch ready to go, so that's good. And again, you know, the neat thing about this hatch is you could actually hide a switch behind it. We talked about that, and I think that'll probably, you know, it may be something that's offered for the kit. I don't know. My manipulator arms are good to go. I'm going to finish cleaning up the cockpit because I need to get all these wires sorted. So lots of little details and niggly things to do, but we're really getting there, and I'm very happy with my progress. Very happy. So as I'm putting the wing lights, the underneath wing lights down on the flatbed, I'm realizing that my long hoses are going to need some way to essentially tie down my, my cables. So I've gone ahead and I've pulled these wonderful little eyes, and what I am intending to do is drop them into these little holes right here, which I'm starting to do, and then I will be able to run a wire from one side to the other and tie these down with a little bit of wire, and I think that detail will be really cool. I'm going to add these details as I go. Again, none of this is really referenced in a conceptual design. This is the part where we get to have some fun and add a little bit of our flair and our ideas to Ron's design. We're doing as best as we can to keep as close to the conceptual sketch that we see, but everything else are just sort of, it's the icing on the cake. But this is where it gets really fun for me, because I get to add some of these really cool little details. The last time I was able to do this was on my Orca build, which was an incredible amount of fun to detail out. That was a great model. If you haven't seen that video, go back and check it out. It's a Bill Wiega design, and it was part of the sprueVerse challenge, but it's one of my favorite builds of all time, and it's worth you checking out because it's a lot of fun. So I'm going to go ahead and get these eye loops in, just the back ones for now, tie those down and show you what that looks like. Well, I have some decisions to make in terms of color. If you have Ron's book, it's not actually written by Ron. It was written by Jacob Johnston, and it is available on Amazon. It's an incredible book, and if you are passionate about conceptual artists as I am, you'll want Ron Cobb's work. It's just extraordinary. But I am looking now at some of the work from the book. These are actual sketches. It's interesting. Deep core, interior, and exterior is here, but these are the only 2 pages dedicated to the flatbed. One is just it's plan view. It's got some side view, and it has changed quite dramatically. I mean, it was a sketch, but there's no indication of date. Also, interestingly enough, was in the description here, it says another key question Cameron and Cobb had to answer was how they were going to light the faces behind helmets. They talk about that. A classic example, license plates. They talk about design, but what they don't talk about is color. What you can see here is there is a red that is used, and everything else is in the white. So it does beg a question of what ultimately do we want to do in terms of color. Now for the film itself, ultimately they were yellow. So I think it might be fun to add some yellow and keep some white. I like the idea of the handrails up top here being yellow, because it would be something you would want to visually see. Some of the lower elements, I think, perhaps I'll leave in the white. So I'm going to go ahead and put in my floor gradings now, and I'm going to start looking for a yellow. I've got an idea of the yellow I want to use. Now don't forget, I'm going to age everything down. I'm going to add some rust. I'm going to do all kinds of things. Yellow is a very common color in submersibles, and there's a reason for it. You can see it quite well underwater. White you can't. So there is a huge argument to be made that all of the handrails and pipage should be yellow so that you can visually see it. So I've got some thinking to do, but while I'm doing my thinking, I've got a little light blocking to do. My rails have to dry, and I've got some other details that I can be working on, like engines, and I need to figure out exactly how I'm going to station my my gripper arms. There's two of them. There's a large one and a smaller one. And I've also got to start working on details for the interior, because I really need to think about when and how I'm going to close that up. Lots of details to work on. But boy, I am really happy with where she is. This is an awful lot of work to get here, but well worth it. Quite a significant step forward, as you can see. It's really taking shape. A couple of things I've done. I have permanently installed my pipage that is going to drop us down onto our base. And the reason why I've done that is because I need to permanently install these wires down there so that I can start finishing up the cockpit and seeing what details I'm going to need. Now, there are two versions of the rear door for you, one with handlebars and one with the classic frame. And I haven't decided just yet, but I think I'm going with the pipes only because I can paint those yellow and that will look really good. But everything is really starting to come together. I've got so much weathering to do, it's not funny, but that is a good thing because I am now at a point where I can actually put this on some kind of a vise so that I can work around it. But the purpose of showing you this is so that I could memorialize the power that is going to drop down here, because once that happens, we can start working on one night in the cockpit, and that's going to start to really bring this together. And I think the blue light in here, juxtaposed against her blue denim overalls and her dark skin, I think is really going to work really well. The other thing too is don't forget, this is just a test version of this kit, and I'm sure there'll be a bunch of modifications, but it sure is fun being a guinea pig, I don't mind telling you. And I'm sure once Jeff and I discuss the final details, there'll be a lot more to consider. Well, one night has come together quite nicely. Here she is, and some nice detail on very nice detail on her. And I'm going to add her headset, and then we'll be able to slide her in. I'm at the back here now, as you can see, and I'm getting ready to just close up this door. Now, I've chosen these pipes because I think that they sort of they complement everything. And of course I've gone yellow, And so here is the rear safety bars. It makes perfect sense to me now that these would all be yellow. It all needs to be visible like this, and it needs to obviously protect the casings from any kind of knocking or hitting. So I'm very, very glad I went with the yellow, although I must admit I was struggling with that notion. But no, I think that's the correct way to go. And so once I've got these elements all glued in, I can start thinking about getting these engines mounted. And they will slide in these slots right here like this. They're going to be cleaned up a little bit, but they sit in these like here, in those sort of slots like that, and they're looking really handsome. And obviously I have to put on my directional fins, and they'll go on. And then once I've done my directional fins, I can start thinking about these side thrusters here, which have to go on. And they are quite prominent, as you can see, in Ron's sketches. So to not have those, I think, would be a really big mistake. I've also been working on the crane arm as well. I didn't go crazy with the crane arm, but we've set it up in such a way that you can actually turn. You can turn the actual manipulator mouthpiece itself, and I like that aspect of it because it allows me to situate it correctly on my on my sub. So that's a good thing. So we're working on those, and I've also got the smaller manipulator arm which goes underneath, ready to go. So we are definitely making some good progress. Definitely making some good progress. I'm working on the belly of this. Now I chose to install a rod in the bottom of my flatbed. And because I did that, it changed the dynamics of what this is supposed to be. Ordinarily, you have these ballast tanks, and they're supposed to go all the way across. Now, I can only get 2 full ones in here, and then I have to cut these to make them fit. But that's it's not a problem. The nice thing about that is it will actually hide the bolt that is holding the pipe to the actual flatbed itself. So that's a good thing. Very clever design by Mr. Jeff Fink to actually be able to do this. So I really appreciate that. I have to get this on first so that I can actually figure out just exactly how these are going to be put together. But I will probably trim these and glue these center ones in before I actually install this. And then once this is installed, it will allow me to install my side tanks like this. And then the bottom will actually be dangerously close to being completed. And that's a really good thing, because then I can flip it over and start concentrating on everything I need on top. Permanently installing the front canopy or dome to the cockpit. There she is, looking really nifty. And I think you'll see now we've got to start adding these details like these top. And all of a sudden this flatbed starts to come alive. Now, obviously, we don't have any weathering on this yet or decals, but I think you'll agree it's starting to look like a flatbed. Very cool. Now I have a major piece that has to go on the front here, and it's going to go like this, and we'll install that. And then there is then we'll install that like that. I'll get that glued in. And then there's a license plate and some other details, and we'll see where we are. But wow, 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 holy moly, this is definitely definitely coming together, and I just I couldn't be happier. Having some fun with weathering now and rusting, and this is one of those things where it's dealer's choice. I think that the reality of it is that you can do as much or as little as you want to. You can either build this and display it as something that has just been built and it hasn't even been shipped out to its location or wherever it's going to live, or you can do something in between. I think that when Ron Cobb was hired to do all of this for the Abyss, it was clear that an awful lot of his design concepts made it to camera, and that's exciting. So I thought to myself, I would build this as close to the filming miniature as I could, given all of the various different call-outs that Ron would have wanted or asked for, and a few of my own. So this really is a unique piece, and I'm very excited to have it on the bench. I'm playing with chips and rust now, so the idea is that you sort of play with the idea of paint coming off of the unit, and you can do a really nice job with this with some markers and some oils. But step one for me, now that I've sort of tested it and know what I'm going to do, is to hit this with some clear varnish so that I can add my various different details. And if I don't like something, it's a lot easier for me to remove, bearing in mind that I've got to really protect my clear dome in the front here. So what I'm doing is, and you can see, is I'm going to sort of start playing with the various different rusting elements here. So I start with my black marker, and I'm using a display black marker, but I've got several. There are several versions to play with. We've talked about these before. These are the real markers from AK, and they make two versions. They make one that is just real color, and they make another one called play markers. And the play markers just basically are supposed to have a nicer nib, a much more friendly nib for brushes. They're very clever. The paint is in the syringe, as it were, you pump the back here to get the paint moving into your felt tip. And be very careful, because when you energize this, you don't want to keep pumping. You just want sort of one and let it seep down. Otherwise, you'll make a mess. How do I know, Phil, that you'll make a mess? Because I've done it. So that's what you want to avoid. But I'll tell you, these are fantastic little paintbrushes. And they're going to do a fantastic job for me. I've also got my go-tos, my up to long oils. We've talked about these on the channel many, many times. And you will use some odorless thinner to move this around. And if you don't like something, you can take it off. But bear in mind, if you have not sealed your surface, that is not going to happen for you. So make sure you've sealed your surface and you know what you're doing, and you'll be just fine. So step one for me here is to go ahead and start doing my rust pass for the bottom here. I'm also putting a little grime on here. I've got these wonderful little acrylics from Vallejo. You got to be careful. Sometimes when you go to your hobby shop, and you'll see these wonderful effects. Sometimes there'll be powders, sometimes there'll be washes and pigments. You do have to make sure that what you're getting is what you think you're getting. In other words, look on the label to make sure it's not an enamel. Because if it's an enamel, then it's not going to play nicely with your acrylics. You can certainly put it on top of you can put an acrylic on top of your enamel, but don't put your enamel on top of your acrylic. It's going to eat the paint. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead here and start working on this, and you can stick around if you want. If you're not interested, get yourself a nice cold beverage, and we'll continue. If that goes like that, then it's two front and center. There we go. Now, This much fun should be illegal. It's really cool. I'm just trying to add just some dirt and some weathering to it. It's a working machine, and I think Ron would have been appreciative of the fact that his work was actually being used. So that's what I'm sort of trying to do here, is just add a little touch of drama to it all. Could you make this pristine? Absolutely you could, yeah. But you know, why would you when you can age it down and have some fun with it? The notion that these types of things are, you know, they should look exactly like a film frame is a huge part of the hobby, and I really appreciate that. There are so many people out there who watch my channel who will comment once in a while and go, well, that's not correct, that's not the right light flashing, that's not the right color, it doesn't look like that. And I appreciate that. I genuinely do. I think that level of observation is really cool, and it does add a certain level of importance to what we're doing. And for those out there who really want that level of detail or of exactness, I think that's very cool. I'm not a Canon guy, and I've said this 1,000 times, but I do appreciate and love the idea that you would try to get something exactly as it is. I'm going to continue. I've got some details to add. I've got a license plate. I've got this little black element here that I'm going to add that I think works for me. Right here. This well, you can't see it from that angle, can you? You can see it from this angle. There we go. This little element right here I'm adding. I just I like it. I don't know what it does, but I do like it, and I think it adds some drama. I like the fact that I've got my hook loose enough that I can swing it in, or I can swing it out of the way, so it can sit like that, and that's kind of cool. I'm still working on this element. I'm going to sort of pull it back a little bit. I think I went a little overboard with it, but you know, it's a working crane, so I'm just trying to sort of figure out what that should look like. The nice thing about paint is if you don't like what you've done, you just wipe it off and you start again, and that's the great thing about that. So I'm going to continue to add a few more of these details. For you, the next segment will be some beauty shots of this incredible machine. But for me, it's about 3 or 4 hours of just playing with it and trying to blend it all in, and of course getting a sealer coat on it. But I wanted to just sort of get an idea of what I was doing. Really having an awful lot of fun with this, and I'm just so excited to have this in my collection. It's a really special piece because I don't often do submarines. I do intend to do one very special submarine this year, though, and I think some of you may already know what it is. It's from an Irwin Allen television series, and I'm going to be excited about building one of those because I don't have a Seaview in my collection. So we're gonna rectify that this year. So much to do. Okay, I'm gonna continue playing with these details and working on some of these elements, and then we'll take some beauty shots of my flatbed, my Ron Cobb flatbed, as designed by the great Jeff Fink. So we will continue here. Well, once in a while you get an opportunity to really do something special, and this is one of those opportunities. If you like James Cameron movies, and if you loved The Abyss, as I did, this is definitely something you would want to consider having in your collection. Hopefully it's going to be a kit. We're waiting to find out what the various sort of logistics are of doing that. But I do believe that there is a discussion in the work to make this a kit, and that would be terribly exciting, especially for those of you who have your own printers. But if you don't, I believe Keith at Cozmic Scale Models is seriously considering putting this into kit form. Hey, a big shout out to my good friend Jeff Fink, who designed these wonderful Ron Cobb conceptual flatbed 3D model files for me. Gave me an opportunity to play once again with him. If you recall, we've done this once before. We did a cutaway Dalek, which I actually took to Wonderfest, and it did quite well. It was very well received. So you might want to go back and check that one out, because if you're going to become a Jeff Fink fan, as I am, you'll need to know what he's working on. And there's an awful lot he's working on that's terribly exciting. I'd also like to thank Randy Cooper, who contributed to this base for me and gave me some wonderful information and some detail ideas as well that were very, very helpful. And of course, don't forget that Chris over at Golden Armor is also working on a version of this as well. I don't know where it is in terms of his offerings, but Golden Armor is another place. If you've ever been over there, he has some wonderful things, and I think he's also working on some other models from the movie. So the thing is there's so many opportunities now to I think really explore different concepts and different ideas. We will definitely be getting back to sprue because, hey, plastic model kits, as difficult as some of them could be because of fit issues, it's still a core part of the hobby. And I know a lot of you out there have got an awful lot of kits in that stash that I'm coming after. I'm going to get you building them because that's what I want to do for 2026. Get as many of you to build and enjoy a hobby that I admire so much. Hey, if you want to get a hold of me, I am sprueVerse@gmail.com, and I post most days the In the Weeds, what's going on the bench on my Instagram account, and that would be at sprueVerse. You can buy me a cup of coffee for my charity bills, and you'll find a link to the World of Wayne's merch page for sprueVerse merch, and 100% of those proceeds go to charity. So pick yourself up a shirt. You'll be glad you did. As always, I wish all of you, please be safe and be well. Build something, and I'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.